Don't go through life, grow through life. Eric Butterworth. Hi, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Misadventures of Mine podcast, hosted by me, your clinical child and adolescent psychologist, Aliaska Lake Nadal. And you might probably already know this intro. You already know how it goes. You know what words follow other words. And if you don't know, you're probably a new listener. So for you, the new listener, hi, welcome. Join our community. Thank you for being here with us. And I'm gonna break down my full title and name, and it's as followed. Aliaska Lake Nadal. It's a mouthful, I know. My first name and my last name, not your typical name. And honestly, that's how I like it, because I'm not your typical girl, not even your typical psychologist, which is a clinical child and adolescent psychologist. Yeah, very short, very simple. I work with children, just like this podcast. We talk about life. We talk about things that might upset them, things that might make them question what's the purpose of life. And you might think, children questioning that, trust me, they might be more self-aware than some of us adults, and it's so scary. But either way, it's wonderful working with them. And just like I said, they have questions about life. You probably also have questions about life. And this is a podcast where we talk about everything. We talk about life, we talk about growing up, we talk about emotions and everything in between. And usually I, drop new episodes, new Gemini gems on the Friday, every other Friday. So without me rambling too much, we're gonna get right into it. Because today's episode, like I always say, it's gonna be a good one. And have I been wrong? Now tell me if I've been wrong, honestly, because I also want to grow. I also want to learn from, your feedback, because I value it very much. I love looking at the comments of the answers that I pose in other episodes. Just getting that kind of looped feedback. I take out something, you listen to it, you tell me what you think, I listen to that, and then, I adjust, I change, I become a better version of me, and thus making this podcast also a better version of it. But anyhow, today's misadventure of the mind is one that convinces you that you shouldn't invest in yourself. I'll say it again. It's a misadventure of the mind that convinces you that you shouldn't invest in yourself. Now, this is let's say it's connected to a previous episode that I did. And if this is your very first time listening to this podcast, you might want to pause it, or you can listen to this one and then just run back the old one. But the old one I'm talking about is episode 7, which is titled, Am I Delusional? And in that episode, we talked about being a big dreamer, being confident enough to dream big and to go for said dreams. And in today's episode, we'll be talking about the actual plan of action of those dreams, because everyone says, yes, I want to do this, I want to accomplish this, I feel like I want to travel the world, maybe I want to travel to all of the countries in a specific continent, and I want to be able to say I've been to each and every continent. I have a friend who loves traveling, and honestly I'm so inspired by her, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, she's been to a country in every continent. Yes, except Antarctica, of course. However, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, I feel like she has. And if she's listening, I know she knows I'm talking about her. But, maybe you're a dreamer like that. And, it's nice. It's nice to have on paper even. It's nice to think about it. However, don't get stuck in just the dreaming aspect of it. There's also the doing aspect of it. And that is actually what I want to tackle in today's episode. And yes, as per, edges might be snatched, as well as my own as yours. So if you feel personally attacked, just know it is out of love, truthfully out of love, because I want to encourage and stimulate you to also become a better version of yourself, as well as a better version of myself, because as I'm talking to you, I'm also talking to me. But yes, with all that being said, I do want to prelude before we get into, the definitions and the meanings of things, as we always do. I do want to preface the terms section of, or the definition section of this podcast to start with a story time, because as you may know, and as always, I always get inspired by conversations that I have with the people in my immediate vicinity. May be a stranger or somebody who I'm really close with, but this is one of those moments where I was just talking about something with a person in not necessarily like a friend or less than a friend, just a person. Anyways, rambling. So backstory. So I was talking about, the type of instruments that I play or want to play. I currently own an acoustic guitar. My husband owns an electric guitar. And one of my dreams is to also be able to play electric guitar. So there was this one day where we went to a guitar store, and there was this very sexy matte black Ibanez guitar. And I thought, yep, sometimes you think like, oh, you need to do the thing first before you buy the thing that allows you to do the thing. Well, in this case, I felt the exact opposite. I felt if I have this matte black, sexy, sleek, has the right curves type of guitar, I will definitely start focusing on how to get that nitty gritty guitar sound, that very much rock and roll, that very much giving Paramore, if you're unfamiliar. No judgment here, but low-key a little judgment. Everyone has their taste, whatever. It's fine, it's cool. But also, bless your ears, listen to some Paramore, alternative pop rock. They don't really have a lot of heavy stuff, so it's listener friendly for those who are not familiar with rock. However, if I do have avid rock listeners out there, hey, what's up? Listen to Avenged Sevenfold, my personal favorite, Linkin Park. There's also 3 Days Grace. Also another favorite of mine is 30 Seconds to Mars. I think mostly because of nostalgia. However, Jared Leto is still doing his thing at the ripe age of 50, however old he is. But that's neither here nor there. So I was talking to this person about this guitar, and then they're also a musician. They also play the guitar and I think another instrument, if I'm not mistaken. And they also do like light music production on the side. Like that is their thing, their little dream. And they also express that they want to become a DJ. So I asked, do you already like have the instruments or tools or whatever that you need to do it? And they said, well, yeah, but like the very basic version. It's like, if you're subscribing to like a channel or like a Crunchyroll or something, or like an app, and then there's the free version and you get some stuff, but if you get like the premium version where you pay for it, you get like the full package. And he said he's still at like the free bit, the very like basic, nothing too special, works, fine. So then I asked, why not get the full thing? Why not get the full experience, the full package? And their response was, well, it's just too expensive. I think the DJ setup that they were talking about was maybe like an 800 euros or something, maybe more, maybe less. I can't really remember, but the point of it is it was just too expensive according to them. So I said, well, why not just get it anyway? Because it is something that, you want. And it's not just something that you want, but also something that you kind of need to fulfill those dreams. And in their eyes, I saw like, yes, she's right, but also a little smidgen, a little hint, a little twinkle of, ooh, maybe not. And that little twinkle, I feel like most of us have it, and it's not like a bad thing. And that little twinkle I'm talking about is the fear of failure. I'll definitely get back to that. However, it is something that kind of holds us back, I feel like, whenever we're thinking about our dreams, because we can be a big dreamer. I am a big dreamer. But if I'm being honest, if someone says, oh, why don't you just go for this dream and that dream? What are you waiting for? I'll think to myself, first of all, personally, that's why you're asking me that question. And also, secondly, it's because I'm terrified. I'm terrified of going for said dream and doing poorly. My dream was to be a podcaster. Started it, fulfilling my dreams. However, every time I record an episode, upload it, and also share it, I feel this twinkle in my eye. Maybe it's a tear. I don't know. Could be. But, I always go with like the reluctancy of posting. I post, however, I feel like, oh, what if it does poorly? Maybe I shouldn't post anymore. Maybe I should just stop. But then that's my misadventured mind taking over, and that is not what we want to do. We want to acknowledge our misadventured mind. We want to acknowledge the sometimes confusing thoughts that we might have. We might, face them in a very reluctant way, because facing yourself is a lot easier said than done. Let's be real. But it is very necessary. So going back to the story and this person, so when I saw that twinkle, it kind of made me think about myself in like, why don't I try to invest in myself as well? Because, other than podcasting and, I'm a psychologist as well. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it before, but I also love doing art. And for maybe most of my life, I have been subconsciously investing in myself in this, because I think it was in December I bought some new markers, and it's like the alcohol markers that blend really, really well. Let me just say, these were not cheap, but the way how they draw and how they fill in, it's so beautiful. And I thought, oh my gosh, this was a great purchase. And that also inspired me to talk about it actually, and to ask you, my fellow loyal listener, do you invest in yourself? Do you turn your dream into a plan of action? Do you take time to think about the steps that you need, or the tools or even people that you might need to further your dream? Think about it. Now be honest with yourself. You don't have to be honest with me, but at least be honest with yourself. But yes, like I said, the little twinkle, that little spark of fear, where does it even come from? So right now I want to actually talk about the psychology behind not wanting to, or questioning whether or not you should invest in yourself. We're gonna talk about the psychology behind your misadventured mind. So as per in my deep dive search in the web, I found a couple of really interesting articles, and most of them do have things in common. So it's not like one says, oh, fear of failure comes from, I don't know, poor childhood, and then the other one comes from like nothing. It's something innate, which that's also like a discussion. However, I personally believe that it is not innate. I feel like it is something that is learned. It is something that you develop over time through the things that you go through. And low-key, that's kind of like a preface to the quote and a reference to the quote where it says, don't go through life, grow through life. And sometimes when you're growing up in life, you might encounter some situations or some people that might have been not necessarily negative, but kind of triggered something in you that then led you to believe that you're maybe not good enough or you're not cut out for something. But again, without rambling too much, the psychology of fear of failure. Now, what I found and what I also agree with, and that's mostly because I do have personal experience with it as well, is the fact that fear of failure is often linked to not you, but to the external world. So it is not something that develops within yourself. I mean, technically it is, because it is like a mental thing. However, the seed of it, let's say it's like a plant, the seed of it is the external world, what you experience with another person or experience in a situation. Let's say, for example, you were a kid, right? And you did dancing or something. And then there was a school play, talent show, whatever have you. And in this school play or talent show, you were super hyped. You were like, yup, got my choreo, got my, maybe I got backup dancers. But then as you're performing, you're like, oh, shoot, wait, I don't remember this choreo. Who made this? Knowing very well that it was you. But you're like, who made this? I can't follow this. Like, what is happening? So maybe you end up doing something incorrectly, which is not bad. Like in your mind, you're like, oh, whatever, I messed up. But then after the fact, after the talent show is done, or maybe you go in the back, someone is like, oh my gosh, you didn't even follow the choreo. Or maybe while you were dancing, you fell or something. And instead of everyone saying, oh my gosh, are you all right? They start laughing at you and pointing. So now you feel ashamed. You feel humiliated. And that is the first, let's say, seed, the little spores that, fell in your soil. Now, other seeds that might also have fallen in your soil is maybe at a later time. So, you kind of forget it because it's something that happened way back when. But now fast forward to a couple of years after, let's say you're in your teenage years, the peak of, caring about what other people think of you. You maybe, again, have like another talent show or whatever performance thing. And, you try your best. However, somewhere along the line, it doesn't really work out. And maybe you made a mistake, or maybe you fell again, maybe you got weak knees, who knows? But then instead of people saying, hey, you did a good job regardless, you did your thing, what they do instead is they try to humiliate you. Now you're the person with weak knees. You're the person who can't even, follow a simple choreo or a simple, let's say, skit or poem, whatever. So, these are different scenes, different examples of how you might develop a fear of failure. Another one, however, is perfectionism. Your desire and almost need to be perfect all the time, or to complete something to perfection. And some people might think that perfectionism is something that's innate, that is something that you're born with. However, I feel like, and I haven't looked up articles or anything, so this is just an assumption of my own hypothesis. I think that perfectionism is also something that is developed. I don't think you come out of the womb expecting yourself to be perfect. I think that along the way, along you growing up and you going to school, you develop the sense of needing to be perfect all the time, needing to excel and do things so almost spotless and so accurate that no one has anything to say. Are you this type of person? Are your edges snatched yet? Because I know mine are. Because I am somebody who, before it was a lot more prominent, I'd say, in my life. Now am I lying to myself? Nah, I think that me now at 27 compared to me, let's say at 17 even, I think that my desire and need to be perfect has let up a little bit. Like now I feel like I go with the flow in increments, not fully in increments, but I do feel like I am able to be less hard on myself. My inner critic, it's still there, of course, always telling me, hey, are you sure you're doing this perfectly? Or hey, you should do this better. This is not perfect. Sometimes I say, yeah, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. And other times I'm like, hold on. Give me like 2 or 3 more hours so I can actually perfect this. And then I'm stressing, I'm panicking because it's not working out. And then I want to cry. Is this also you? I don't know. If it is, virtual hugs in here. And if it's not you, then honestly, teach us your ways, please. But anyhow, that was a little, explanation of fear of failure, where it comes from, what is the underlying meat of it and essence. It is something that develops internally, however, it starts off externally. That's in a nutshell what you can take away from this. And what I also found is a very interesting quote, and I really love it. And I don't have the book personally. I did buy it for my mom, I'm pretty sure. Or she bought it for herself and I thought about buying it for her. I can't really remember, but I'm pretty sure I bought it for my mom. And the book is called Becoming from Michelle Obama. And there was this quote in the book that said, failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. It's vulnerability that breeds with self-doubt and then escalated, often deliberately, by fear. I'll read it again. Failure is a feeling long before it becomes an actual result. It's vulnerability that breeds self-doubt and then escalated, often deliberately, by fear. So I think what she's trying to say is that it's okay to fail and it's okay to, not do something perfectly. It is just a feeling, you fail at things. You can't do something totally perfect. However, when you pair it with self-doubt, when you pair it with a maybe negative past experience that you've had, you start to question yourself, and thus it turns into a fear. And then you're like, shoot, I don't think I can do this. And then your heart start beating at a faster rate. Maybe you start getting sweaty. That's just me also getting into some signs and symptoms of what you might feel when you're not really fearing the failure, but you feel like you're kind of putting it off, or you feel like if you do this thing, or if you, let's say, invest in yourself, these are the things that you might feel before or even thinking about it. Because sometimes the thought of something negative or thought of something uncomfortable can also elicit a physical reaction. Even though you're not in the situation itself, just the thought about it is also enough to, make you feel an X amount of things. Also, that is some things of PTSD, a trauma response, but that's also conversation for another day. But some physical symptoms when you're feeling or you're fearing failure, like I said, an increased heart rate, maybe, you might feel your hands get sweaty. There's also muscle tension. So, like when you're stressed and you feel like the nape of your neck or at your shoulders and it's like a rock. That's an example as well. There's trembling, there's paralysis, there's even the irregular breathing. So, maybe you might hyperventilate, or the opposite, you might, forget to even breathe, which sounds crazy, but it happens where you're so tense and you're so stuck in that fear that you forget to breathe. You forget to do the thing that keeps you alive. Also, this is also a survival response, but also a trauma response. You know, if this is you, if you recognize this in yourself, that's good. So we talked about, the physical symptoms. I also want to talk about the emotional symptoms that you might feel or that might come up actually when you're in a situation that warrants a fear response to failure or fear response to wanting to go for your dreams, for example. And that's the self-doubt. That's the low self-esteem that you might feel. And you might also subscribe to negative self-talk. I know many people, and by people I mean me, who sometimes undermine their abilities and their capabilities just so they can convince themselves that they're not capable of going for their dreams. So then they have an excuse not to invest in themselves. If this is you, sup, I'm here with you. I understand you. I see you. You're not alone. But we're gonna have to change that. We're gonna have to. This is 2024. It's time to change. It's time to invest in yourself. But yes, other than that, there's also hopelessness and helplessness, and that is not necessarily you not being able to do something, but the actual feeling that you have that you're not able to do something. So let's say somebody asks you to help them with a thing. You're like, oh no, I don't think I can do that. But then at an extreme rate, at a rate that really debilitates your ability to perform a task. And lastly, there's also pessimism and just negative beliefs about yourself, which, ties hand in hand and goes together with the low self-esteem and the negative talk. These are all emotional and also mental blocks that can occur when you're in a state of fear of failure. But there are two things that also occur. It's not technically a physical thing, it's more behavioral. And this is the act of procrastinating or avoiding the task. And when I read this, I thought, ooh, shots at me. Where is my shield? I need to hide and get some cover because this is literally me to a T. I remember, and maybe I've talked about it before, but I remember having to do a art project for a small group of Caribbean people from the Caribbean, and they were creating a book filled with different Caribbean artists, come together, and I got tasked to create the cover art. And, I was excited, of course, because it's art. It's something I love doing, and I loved their mission for it. I loved their vision. So, of course, I jumped on that. But then, while creating it and while sitting through the sketches and doing the things, because I often start out with the rough sketch, and then I actually either draw it fully on paper or I do it digitally. And I just remember putting it off so many times because I just felt like, what if I fail? What if it's not good? What if it's not the right size? What if it's not the right thing? What if I understood their vision incorrectly and now I'm gonna submit something that is not at all what they asked for? And all of these thoughts and feelings and emotions came up, but yeah, that led me to procrastinate. I mean, obviously I finished it on time and I submitted it when I had to, but the process of it is the thing that, to this day, I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was maybe 3 years ago, but so when I saw procrastination, I thought, oh, they're talking to me. So now I'm talking to you. Do you procrastinate when you know that you need to get the thing done? And if that is you, maybe it could be a sign that you're afraid to fail. And if that is you, because I do recognize it in myself, how come? What is that thing that is making you so afraid? Is it the failure, or is it the, let's say, judgment of other people or critique of other people? Maybe you're around people who often, give you unsolicited advice, and you're like, didn't really ask for it, but sure. And that is something very difficult. I'm not gonna sit up here and lie and say, oh, you should just ignore them. Easier said than done, as most things. However, it is something to think about. It is something that you have agency over. So this is something that you can control. The feeling that you have, technically you can control it, more so overcome it and get through it and work through it. But, especially people and your environment, that is definitely something that you can change. You have a say, and, use your voice to say what you need to say. If you need to tell them, hey, can you back off? Say it. If, you feel like the environment that you're currently in is not something that encourages you, change it, move. Grab your bags, grab your water, grab your snacks, and leave. Because nobody is pressuring you to stay there. But also, you have to think about yourself. You have to sometimes be a little selfish. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it is true. Because at the end of the day, everyone thinks about themselves. So you're allowed to as well. I encourage you to. I encourage you to invest in yourself. Honestly, be like Kanye. Love yourself like Kanye loves Kanye. And, this gets into the part of the episode where, I might drop like a little tip or whatever. But it is just simple as that. Invest in yourself. Go for your dream. Set it in motion. Create a plan. If it's a really big dream and has a lot of steps, take it one day at a time. Take it an hour at a time even. And if you don't have an hour, take it 10 minutes at a time. It's fine. Your dream will still be your dream at the end of the day. However, it's up to you to decide whether or not you'll invest in yourself. But you're going to be like, oh, Ali, but I'm afraid. Oh, Ali, what if I fail? Oh, Ali, but this dream is too big. No dream is too big. So Carol Dweck, who is also a psychologist, she developed or theorized a concept known as the growth mindset. The specific book is called Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. She believes in the way to overcome fear of failure is to develop a sense of growth mindset. And that means that you would be open to learning from your failure, as opposed to sitting in it and letting it drive and control where you need to go. So with growth mindset, it's all about your attitude. It's all about your perspective on the situation. The situation does not change, but the way how you perceive it, the way how you conceptualize it, is a thing that can be changed. So per her, I challenge you to develop a growth mindset. What does that look like for you? I know for me, a growth mindset would be, for example, just being open to the experiences that I have, past and also present, because in one way or another, they do, let's say, control and shape me, direct me in a certain path towards a certain way of thinking. But, every day I'm just learning more and more how to not really silence that voice, but more so how to accept it and live with it. How would I grow through it? Instead of going through it, how would I grow through it? And yes, this is also a reference back to the quote. How would I grow through it? There is another way that you can overcome a fear of failure, and it is a Japanese concept of kaizen. Kaizen means steady incremental improvement. So it's not to say that you need to, like I said, achieve your dreams by tomorrow, but you can do it in little steps, in little increments. You don't have to necessarily have your whole plan thought out and be able to execute it by next month. If that is the case, and that is something that you are able to do while also keeping your sanity, good for you. Absolutely do it. I'm here for you. I'm cheering for you. If this is you, let me know what that dream is and let me know when it succeeds so I can hype you up too. Obviously you don't really need me to hype you up, but I will anyway. And there are a lot of things that the Japanese believe in. If you're familiar as well with the Japanese concept ikigai, that also means purpose of life. And there's also even a book about it. I really, really love that book. And they really talk about purpose of life in a different way. It's almost like a step-based way. It's more like a go with the flow and, follow the path. And that will ultimately lead to your purpose, which is something that I absolutely find beautiful. So, Kaizen, growth mindset, these are some things, that might be helpful for you when you're feeling a slight gust of fear, when you're about to do something for yourself, when you're about to invest in yourself, trying to convince yourself that you shouldn't. Sometimes, we need to go through the mental maze. We need to grow through our misadventured mind, So yeah, with all that being said, invest in yourself. Like Kanye said, sometimes you have to be your biggest fan. Love yourself like how Kanye loves Kanye. He believes that he can do anything. He believes that he is him. You should believe that you are you. So my challenge for you today is invest in yourself. Think about that dream, reflect on it. Think about that goal that you want to achieve. Reflect on it. What do you need? Who do you need? Maybe you need an X amount of money. Set up a plan, set up a savings account if you don't have one already. What are the steps that you might need to achieve this goal? So, you made it this far into the episode. Wonderful. Thank you for bearing with me. And of course, the topic of today, because it wasn't just, cookie cutter topic. It was something that may have snatched your edges, talking about, not investing in your dreams, not investing in yourself, and the psychology behind that. But, we also dropped a little tip per Kanye West. Invest in yourself. Be your biggest fan. And if your edges are still intact, that's wonderful. If they were snatched, listen, you should know by now. Get a better edge gel, But you know how we like to do it on this very here podcast. I have to, send you off with some positivity for your day, for your week, for your weekend, for your month. And today we're going to start off the affirmation with a little biblical affirmation for my Bible readers out there. And today's verse can be found in Isaiah 41:10, and it is as followed. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous hand. And for my non-Bible readers out there, I also have an affirmation for you, don't worry. And it's a little bit different today. It's a mantra. And if you're not familiar with mantras, it's basically a phrase that you can repeat to yourself to kind of, encourage yourself. And today's affirmation / mantra is: investing in myself will pay off. Investing in myself will pay off. You've reached the end of this episode. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for listening with me. Thanks for thinking with me. Because I know there were some things that you thought, this is kind of interesting. And if that were the case, that's cool. Talk about it. Discuss about it. Tell your friends, tell your family. Share it on Instagram. Share it on WhatsApp. Share it on Facebook. Share it on whatever else platform that you're on Twitter. Or I guess it's called X now? Who knows? But anyways, I hope that it meant something for you. I hope that, it tickled your brain. And if it did, let me know. Drop a comment in Spotify. Underneath, just scroll down the episode. It'll say, what were your thoughts on the topic? Let me know. And if you're an audio listener on YouTube, drop a comment in the comment section. But before you do that, like, comment, subscribe. Like and subscribe and then comment. Okay? And I hope to inform you again on another episode. Okay, thanks. Bye.